The Feast of the Transfiguration is a white day, a day reflecting ideas of purity of Christ. White is sometimes considered the absence of color, but that is incorrect. White contains all colors. A prism separates the white sunlight into the familiar colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, based on the speed of the light. Red travels fastest and violet is slowest. Also, red bends the greatest, while violet has the least amount of bend. After a rainstorm, the air is full of spherical raindrops that act like prisms to form arced rainbows of color. There is much more to the physics of light and color, but let's consider this. If colors alone aren't sufficiently beautiful, artists transform them into even more beauty, or sometimes imagery that is not so beautiful but evokes other potent qualities like strength or fear or disgust. Artists thus transform the simple colors of the rainbow into a myriad of otherness. If or when all the colors are randomly mixed, the palette becomes muddy, dull, opaque, even ugly. Transformation as a process has many other parallels in nature that operate according to physical rules. Ecological adaptability demands transformation, some for good, some not so good. We know what happens when an invasive plant species takes root or a foreign sea creature invades. Think boa constrictors in Florida or kudzu in Alabama. Unbalancing nature. Many of our beautiful trees and shrubbery are technically invaders that have transformed our landscapes. Sometimes, when the transforming process is somewhere in the middle, we aren't sure where it's headed. Transfiguration is a particular kind of transformation. The key is in the base word figure. The figure of Jesus, the bodily appearance of Jesus, was transformed from the familiar ordinariness of his appearance to a shiny, otherworldly quality. His clothes shone as well. Similarly, we heard about Moses, whose face shone fearsomely, such that he had to veil himself to calm the terrified people. We can understand that. We often use clothing or other artifacts to hide or shield ourselves from something we don't want seen or don't want to see ourselves. We sometimes go to elaborate and costly lengths to provide camouflage. Camouflage is not transformation, is not transfiguration. Whatever is hidden underneath or behind remains. This principle applies to labels also. We might label ourselves courageous, but when tested, our cowardice shines through. We might label ourselves Christian, but when examined against Christ's teachings, we fall short, maybe way short. No, transfiguration is like an advanced form of transformation, and these cannot be mistaken for mere window dressing. Camouflage on the battlefield serves a vital protective purpose that buys time and diverts attention. but on a human in everyday life, it simply produces a fraud. There is a psychological dilemma called imposter syndrome, wherein a person harbors self-doubt and fears being revealed as incompetent. It's based in false self-perceptions and exaggerated ideas of what others are thinking about. I felt that, as have some of you, no doubt. But this is not the same as when a person deliberately manipulates the public image to camouflage a rotten reality. No amount of PR spin or cosmetic dentistry can transform a cheating heart. Throughout Jesus' ministry, from calling his first disciples to his death on the cross, he was being transformed in the eyes of his disciples and close followers and anyone else paying attention. Those who may have at first seen him as just a charismatic guy daring to do something different, and with whom they, in their own youthful exuberance, wanted to go along, also found themselves being transformed. Jesus' entire journey from Bethlehem to Jerusalem was transformative. We might look at today's moment of transfiguration on the mountain as the climax of a drama, that high point in which or through which the story's conclusion or resolution is initiated. According to the Gospels, Jesus invited Peter, James, and John to go up onto the mountain with him to pray. This must have been at night, as his friends were weighed down with sleep. I imagine they were jolted awake by the unexpected, glorious light and the sudden appearance of two ancient figures, recognized as Moses and Elijah. Though Jesus had been giving them hints of what was to become of him, and though this moment for him must have been some kind of supportive confirmation, this moment also seems to be about their transformation in understanding who their friend Jesus really was. From the shining glory to the overshadowing cloud and the voice of God speaking directly to them, they had to be changed. But they likely couldn't have imagined just how they were being changed and what it would mean for their future. As humans, we can imagine that this terrifying moment was also confusing. It seems to me that Peter's immediate impulse to build shelters was an effort to manage his own heightened emotions and sensations. We often try to put ourselves to work to build or create something to relieve the pressure of uncertainty. We might imagine beginning to build a boat like Noah because the water may rise at any moment. Or, like my grandmother, get some biscuits in the oven because surely those boat builders will soon need to eat. It was only God's voice that broke the uncertainty with a direct command. Listen to him. Listen to Jesus. When the vision dissipated, the four men returned down the mountain, speechless, to continue their journey to Jerusalem. So where do we go from here? How do we take in the lesson, the lesson of this transfiguration story? Do we keep trying to go back up the mountain, hoping the vision will return? Or can we follow Jesus to our own road's end? How can our lives be transformed in and through our daily mundane ordinariness? I propose we will not be transformed by dressing up, but through dressing down. In other words, becoming more and more each day who we really, truly are, letting go of the false selves we dress up in so as to shield ourselves from the hurts we fear. In this way, we can take on the authentic glory manifested in Jesus' transfiguration and offered to us as life in Christ. So let's talk about glory. The esteemed and beloved writer C.S. Lewis wrote a sermon called "The Weight of Glory." In it, he maintains that glory is best seen in our neighbors. In other words, we don't have to go to a mountaintop to find glory. But, he says, only when we are less concerned with our own transfigural glory and more concerned with our neighbor's glory are we truly living life in Christ. Lewis says glory is acceptance by God, God's response to, acknowledgement, and welcome of us into the heart of things. He says, in such glory, the door on which we have been knocking all our lives will open. What door are you knocking on? Maybe the door of truth, the door of justice, the door of mercy or compassion, the door of love. We are so blessed to be knocking on doors such as these because, friends, as you know, there are many outside knocking and waiting and hoping for other doors to open, like the door to food security, the door to safe shelter called home, the door to a job with a livable wage, the door to human relationship that ends loneliness, the door to love and peace and equitable prosperity, the door to justice with reparation and reconciliation. Imagine lining these doors up along the arc of a rainbow, bending toward pure heavenly love. The glorious love of God encompassing everyone without exception. But these are earthly doors to transformation and transfiguration of the harsh, scary, and even ugliness that pervades the lives of many of our neighbors. If we, as genuine Christians, are transfigured in the glory of Jesus, then we must do more than imagine rainbows in the sky. We must act. We must do all we can to open these doors for which our neighbors hunger and yearn before it's too late.